I've had a great run with the Bugs 3 since I first got onto them over 2 years ago, and when the Bugs 3 Mini came out I was quite intrigued, particularly with the acro, and then reports started coming out about the acro not being very good and seemed a bit expensive for what it is. But then I got concerned about the fact that it looks as if licensing for things like drones weighing over 250 grams or 0.55 pounds is coming out. So at that point I got more interested, to the point where I spent about $10 to buy just a shell. I thought, okay, I'll eventually get around to put some motors, maybe try an F4 and F7 board and see how we go. But then, recently, Dave in Western Australia tipped me off to the fact that this thing was on sale for about $35 US. So I was fortunate the coupon was still available, so I went out and bought one. So of course, given my background, I tend to prefer flying with this on top. The amazing thing of this $35 US drone was it actually comes with an FPV camera, and it's not too bad either. It's 720 by 480 I think it is, so it's a reasonably high resolution camera. Some people complain about a narrow field of view, but I've just had my first flight with it and I'm wrapped, so that's what I'm going to show you, the video of how it went. So I picked a small park nearby and took off fairly cautiously. There's quite a bit of wind, but I'd done a hover test inside before I brought it out and it seemed to be pretty gusty, so I thought the wind shouldn't be too much of a problem, and sure enough it wasn't. So I was pleasantly surprised as soon as I could see the view through the goggles, just how clear it was. So flew cautiously back and forth over our heads, lined up on the goalposts. What I noticed straight away, if you came down, particularly if you came down vertically with throttle off, it would lose stability. So the key thing there was not to throttle right off. But it's certainly nippy. I'd heard say that the thing was pretty gutsy, and I was really pleased with that. So of course I'm using the jumper with a 2-watt booster on it, so I wasn't too worried about range, because I found out even if you've got a camera, all-in-one FPV camera that's only 25 milliwatts, typically with a booster you get a decent range anyway. And I've heard that the range, even with the standard controllers, about possibly 300 meters, though I've never had much luck with the standard controllers. But again, with the jumper, when I got this thing, because I only got it yesterday, so I really don't know what power the FPV camera is operating on. Probably not much. But yeah, I was thrilled. It was so easy to fly, it just felt so familiar. Those little brushless motors. And I based the program for it on the jumper, on the Bugs 3, just changed to the Bugs 3 Mini protocol. But I've used Expo. The only difference was having to fit up channel 10, which is your acro angle mode. So I had a quick go with acro inside, and that was hilarious. You tilt it on its side and it stays there. So another day I'll have a look at that. But I thought for the first flight I'd stick to my familiar angle mode and just see what I made of it. So it flew beautifully. Again, I hadn't checked to see how long that little battery would last for. But I thought I'm flying in a fairly small park with an observer, so if the thing comes down we could see it. One of the things I was concerned about, I read a review that claimed that one of the differences between the Bugs 3 Mini and this Eachine EX2 was that the EX2 doesn't have a buzzer on it. Now as soon as I took the lid off and compared it with pictures of the Bugs 3 Mini, I thought, well, that looks like the same buzzer to me. So we'll see how we go. As it turned out, at the end of this flight I had a chance to test out the buzzer, and I was really pleased with how it worked. So I'm flying around a bit, getting a bit more confidence. There are a few more people in the park than I'd I'd like, but I thought I'm operating a tiny, lightweight drone, so it's no way dangerous. It's just a toy. I suppose the only drawback with the restricted field of view of the camera is that sometimes things come up sooner than I expect. But overall, particularly if I'm flying high, no problem at all with that as a camera. No temptation to jump in there and replace it with my favourite TX-03. So I was just buzzing around, having fun, getting an idea of how manoeuvrable it was, and gradually trying to bring it down a little bit lower. Get out of the wind, and also try a few things with a bit more control. But the parks this time of year are brilliant. We've gone for the brown of summer to the green of early winter, and we should have these conditions through to around about October, November, say, when suddenly the heat will start up again. So at this point I was thinking of coming in for a landing, but then I realised I was having fun and there's no indication that I'm low on battery, so carried on. But this is incredible value for $35 US. I'll be getting back to my iFlight Cinebee with its Caddx Turtle version 2 high-res camera, but given I'm suspicious that the Caddx Turtle is a very fragile piece of kit, I'm going to wait for perfect conditions and something interesting to film before I really try to do much more with it, because I'm just not sure how long it's going to last. But this thing is, it feels a sturdy little thing, and because I bought that $10 shell, I've already got a spare frame for it. So I'm getting a little bit lower, getting a bit more confident about flying under the tree, under the canopy and close to us, and really enjoying it. And I can put the whole thing in a fairly small bag compared to the Bugs 3s, and off I go. I'm also thinking I can probably put a small cube camera on it, initially the SQ12, and then maybe something like a Firefly version 2 if I figure it's worth buying one. So I can probably get some reasonable video if I feel the need. So at this point I decide to head over to a different patch of trees, try and keep it low, and leap around behind and see how it goes. And of course how it went was I lost contact and actually had a crash landing. So I left the goggles on, started walking over towards it, and when we got close the picture stabilised and we could clearly hear the little buzzer carrying on, which is brilliant for a small drone, because I know I've had trouble with my initial whoops. So I picked it up, still looking at it through the goggles, and very pleased with the initial flight of our EX2 Bugs 3 Mini. So happy flying, and I'll see you next time.